So welcome everyone to the Happy Finances series. It's your girl, Kara Stevens, founder of the Frugal Feminista. And as I've told you before in your inbox on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, that I'm launching the Happy Finances Challenge, launching January 1st, 2019, and the book of the same name launches January 1st, so you can get your money straight in 6 of the key areas of your finances. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about budgeting. We're talking about organization. We're talking about difficult but necessary conversations around money for your friends and family. We are talking side hustle, you guys. And we are talking utmost of how to get out of debt so you can be saving and making your dreams come true. So for this series, I pulled together some of the most fabulous, thoughtful women in the fields of self-care, psychology, personal finance, in order to make this series an exciting one for you so you can begin to really see what those pillars look like in practice. And I'm super excited because tonight I'm bringing you Debrena Jackson Gandy, who is my business coach. Exactly, you guys. She is my business coach, and you know how I do. And she is a national best-selling author of several books, master coach, and keynote speaker. I'm so excited about this interview, you guys. And I was super excited when she agreed to do it with us, because I know the gems that she is going to drop are going to leave you ready to be transformed. So, Debrena,
yes,
welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, honey.
Thank you for agreeing to be here. So, you guys, one of the first things about money, as it is in life and is in business, it's never really about the money, or it's never really about the relationship. It's always about the mindset. What's going on in your head? And the reason I asked Debrena to come and be a part of this conversation is because I have admired her for like probably over a decade now in terms of the work that she does. Her book, All the Joy You Can Stand, the African-American Woman's Principles for Self-Care. No, I jacked up the name. The Sacred Pampering Principles for African-American
Women. Yes, Sacred Pampering Principles. You got it.
Yes. Yes, I live by that. You talking about self-care. You talking about that 20 years ago, Debrena.
Still relevant. Hello.
Yes, even more so. And then you come back with Love Lies. So when I reached out to you, it was because of the thoughtfulness, the relevance, and the timelessness of your conversation about joy, right? And I know we call it the Happy Finances Challenge, and I can't change the title, but when I heard Debrena's definition of joy, I was like, that is what we are talking about, right? And Debrena, could you just share with us why you think joy needs to be a part of this conversation, whether it be just in your life and in your finances?
Yeah. Well, great question. Well, first of all, happiness is an emotion. Mm-hmm. And it is very much related to or dependent on or hinging on external circumstances. So I can be on this, video Zoominar with you and feeling good and feeling your energy. And then I go outside and see that someone has sideswiped my car parked in front of my house. And I move from the emotion of happy to the emotion of pissed off. Now, only a few minutes have transpired. What's the difference? I have an external circumstance that's created an internal thought process and then triggered a certain emotional response or reaction really to this external thing. So we can go through a ton of emotions in the course of one day, in the course of 1 hour. Right. Joy, however, is not an emotion. It is a state of being. And it is our natural, God-given state of being. There is a verse in the book of John where the Creator is saying that my joy, capital M-Y, meaning the Creator's joy, may remain in you and that your joy may be full. So there's already the Creator's joy that's been deposited into our divine design as human being. And the intention of the Creator is that it stay full. We stay joyful. So I can be in joy as a state and still have things occurring outside of me, and I don't move out of that natural divine given state. And you can have crazy stuff going on. You can have drama, death, tragedy, and you can still stay centered in your inner joy state as you move through the external things that are part of life. So happiness can be fleeting and temporal. And so to chase something that by design is temporal is going to be elusive. And that's exactly what we find. One of our founding documents says we're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not even the obtaining of it.
Okay.
And so that's why I talk about joy. I want women to return to, reconnect to, and get back in tune with the natural state of being that is always available to them, and it is installed in us by our Creator.
Oh, wow. Now, I told you I can't change the title of this book, but I should put in parentheses, joyful, right? You guys get the point. So that's where I want to get you guys to. So one of the things, Debrena, that I found in my community is that some of the women, even though they don't want to admit it because sometimes it makes you feel too vulnerable, some of us feel stuck, right? We feel stuck in our lives, and it's often reflected in our finances, our financial habits, our financial decisions, our financial just environment. Now, I know we're having a conversation about mindset, but what are some of the things first that get us stuck? How can we get unstuck in our lives? And then we can talk about what that means for our finances.
Beautiful. Well, in one of my extended telecourses, it's a signature extended telecourse called Juicy Woman University. And in Juicy Woman University, I do this compare contrast of the way the majority of us tend to be living and functioning in our lives. And I call it the Reboot, REBOO lifestyle. And that's an acronym for ripping and running in the rat race, efforting, busyness, overwhelm, and overdoing. And if you look at most of our lives, you will see the cues, the clues, and the way of living that's consistent with the Reboot lifestyle. But what I am a proponent of, and I have been seeking to do in my life, and it is definitely an ongoing process, and it's also the premises and the principles that I teach in Juicy Woman University, is about a sacred, self-caring consciousness, which means we're now talking about a completely different paradigm. We're not talking about trying to function inside the crazy Reboot paradigm. We're talking about coming out of that and operating from a completely elevated and different place of thinking. And from that different place of thinking, we then have what I call a Juicy Woman lifestyle instead of a Reboot lifestyle. So it's very difficult to experience joy and ease and peace and flow staying inside the Reboot paradigm. And that's what most of us are trying to do. And we got to come out of that cage altogether. There's only so much you can do inside the constraints of that funky, flawed, faulty, infected, poisonous belief system called that gives us the Reboot lifestyle. And so that's why we often can feel stuck, and why we often can feel like I'm putting energy forth, I'm trying to make a change, and how come I don't have more to show for it? And you can feel like a hamster on a hamster wheel because you're still cycling inside of the Reboot mindset, belief, and lifestyle. And you got to get off that hamster wheel and recognize that there's another way to be living and existing. But if we don't have somebody introduce us to that and show the way, come this way, put your foot here, put your foot here, then we stay inside Reboot trying to get to joy, peace, financial liberation, financial ease, experience abundance instead of scarcity. And we'll put forth a lot of effort. And on a treadmill, or on a hamster wheel, there's a lot of energy that little hamster's putting out, but he hasn't moved. He just put out a lot of energy. So that, unfortunately, is a metaphor for many of us.
Right. And we talked about the how this can definitely, the lack of financial ease, lack of financial peace. all these reboots are happening in your finances. If you're ripping and running, you know, efforting, if you are overdoing and having this busyness, it takes an impact on your finances. Just think about, how are you rebooing in your finances right now? Your finances are a great place to really see the rebooing happen. Ooh. Right? And so, Debrena, and I can just say from just like the women that I work with, and the women, whether it be on the side or as like their coach, I can see this idea of, oh my God, I haven't even taken time to create a self-care consciousness around my money, right? And I just want to say one thing I remember from seeing Debrena speak in person. She was like, it was a very simple thing, but it was like transformational. She said, why don't you take the time needed, and after you time it, to figure out how much time do you really need to get ready in the morning, not racing, not ripping and running, and take the time and do it. And I was like, genius, because what ends up happening is like, you take 20 minutes when you know to get you fully in your joyfulness and fully into your abundance and fully into that consciousness, it takes you 60 minutes. Well, then get up and take those 60 minutes, because that is pouring into you. And then the rest of your day is going to flow more peacefully, more joyfully, more abundantly. So in the same way with your finances, you guys, are you making time in your life for a lifestyle of conscious financial lifestyle? And if you're not, let's start from there. If it means taking a Saturday afternoon to begin organizing yourself, then do it, right? If that means also beginning to have conversations about, why am I shopping? Why am I giving money away unnecessarily? Why am I overdrawn? Maybe I need to go to the bank and actually clear my accounts and make sure they're all in one place. So this is just a little bit of the financial implications of this Reboot lifestyle. So now that I got you guys thinking, Debrena, can you help us understand, how do you move from being stuck in the reboot to becoming a juicy woman with juicier finances?
Right. Well, you know, we have been indoctrinated into the Reboot lifestyle and way of thinking and moving and doing and relating and communicating and engaging for decades.
Right.
So it is a process to detox from that lifestyle, because it's reinforced left, right, up, and down. So it isn't just do this, do that, and now you're operating from a wholly different consciousness. There is some serious clean out and healing, and recognizing the current beliefs you've been operating from, being able to name them, being able to clear them, because forgiveness also is about clearing beliefs, not just old emotion, and then planting new beliefs. So all of that takes different amounts of time for different people, depending how deeply anchored their old beliefs are, how attached they are to them. So it is a process, but there's so many correlations. So for example, you talk about having an overdrawn account, right? So if we think of the money in our account like energy, we tend to, in Reboot, operate from depletion, energetically depleted, right? Saying yes when we really want to say no. And with our money, how does that show up? Overdraft, insufficient fund fee, right? Beyond what's in the money tank. So we find these correlations between how we tend to function in Reboot and what's the norm, and then how we deal with money, right? We deal with the time construct. A juicy woman is operating from managing her energy. That's a completely different framework. When we operate from time, we're always thinking about losing it, wasting it, never having enough of it, time scarcity, more to do than time available. So we're always in this lost mindset because it's being subtracted. Oh, there goes another minute, there goes another hour, but I got so much to do. With our money, we tend to think the same way. It's a loss model. It's a scarcity relationship. Never feel like there's enough. So there's so many parallels between how we deal with our energy as women in the Reboot versus the sacred self-caring juicy woman space and our relationship to money. But one mindset shift I really recommend, and this is also something when we get to the prosperity unit in Juicy Women University, this is a reframe that I offer. I said, okay, so let's say that money is your friend, like a sister friend. And right now, let's just take a look at how good a friend you are.
Mm-hmm.
So a good friend you spend time with, and it's quality time. So it isn't where you're distracted, she's talking to you and you're looking over her shoulder or on your phone, or, you know, so being present in the relationship, right? Giving the person focus and attention when you're together, not disregarding them. How many of us, if we saw a penny on the ground, we step over it?
Mm-hmm.
That's money. What kind of friend steps over a friend when they see it, right? And so just a little, it shows up in the little things and it shows up in the big things.
Right.
So your wallet is home to your friend called money. So let's take a look at the wallet. What kind of home are you providing for your friend? Oh, it's crowded. It's junky. It's overstuffed. It's ripping, right? And so we can start with just some basic stuff to say, what kind of friend are we being to money? Do I spend time with my money, meaning taking a look at bills? Are they piling up and I don't want to face it and I'm avoiding and denying? Or do I have a budget? Am I noticing the flow, my friend's flow in my life? When it comes time to pay a bill, am I doing it begrudgingly? Or am I saying, thank you, electric company, for giving me 30 days of electricity and trusting that I'm going to pay you after you extend the electricity to me. Let me pay with the joyous attitude of appreciation. That's not what's usually happening, right? We're like, oh, this electricity bill. Right. So our disposition, what kind of friend we're being to money, just do a snapshot. Look in your wallet right now and say, if money's my friend, what would money say about the house it's in right now? And just tell the truth. Okay, now you might decide to get a better home for your money as part of your moving towards being a happier, financially secure woman, right? And so in our own lives, where do we need to stop saying yes when we want to say no and tapping all of our money? So are we saying yes to going out with friends to an expensive restaurant where the cocktails are $30? And really that just sent you into overdraft, or that money should have really been put aside and not touched and been in savings. So there's amazing parallels to our lifestyle, our mindset, how we're managing our energy, and how we are relating to our money.
Yeah, powerful. And even like during the first week of the Happy Finances Challenge, or even in my other book before this, Heal Your Relationship with Money, we talk about like if money were your friend, what we should be saying behind your back.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yes. And what nickname would money give you? You know, what kind of nickname do you have, right? So it also is just an experience for us to really personify money. You know, money is our friend. It gives us access. It can give us peace if we treat her well. It can open up doors if we treat her well. It can multiply and get new BFFs if you treat her well and put her to work. So I mean,
she'll tell her other friends about you and say, hey, come on over here.
Exactly. This is the place to be.
This is the place to be.
Yes, Debrena. This is like so very powerful for the ladies that are taking these notes and taking this in. This is before you even get any tips and tricks, because it's not going to be sustainable if you don't clear out the clutter like Debrena talked about. And that's why the mindset is so important, because we're seeing how they converge in terms of how you live in your life and how you treat in your money, right? So I'm going to go ask this other question. So what are some of the mental scripts you should play for yourself to move you from a place of joy to a place of joy, from a place of being stuck?
Well, the mental scripts actually, I think, are kind of second in the process, because first of all, our joy already exists within us. And the metaphor I would use is like a river. So the river of joy is built into each of us. We didn't decide it. We can't remove it. It's built into our being, and the Creator decided that. So before we even get to the scripts, it's like, what is clogging up your river? What has been heaped on it, and what's polluting it? And first start to just remove some of that stuff. And so it might be clutter in your mind, it might be relationships, it might be in your space. It might be saying yes when we really want to say no, and how we're mismanaging and not being in integrity with our energy is major. So just to look at all the stuff that's been heaped on top of our joy, and what can we start to remove just with some decisions and being truthful and doing a scan of our lives. And a lot of times, one of the places we can start is just with some silence and stillness, so that we have some space to think, because we often already know what we really should be doing, what we haven't been doing, we should be doing, but we're always running, ripping, running on the go. And if we just hold still and give ourselves some time, you got to make the time so that you have some stillness, and your mind's wisdom can now start to bring you some answers. And it will direct you as to what you really should be doing. So before we even get to the scripts, is first of all just creating a little bit of space in our lives, because so many of us, we're feeling awful cramped. It's feeling tight, and we don't know where to start. And so what is in that joy river, or what is clogging it or plugging it up? Are there a few logs that you can just kind of lift out first, just as square one? We will take a sick day if we don't feel well, but many of us, we need to take a mental wellness day so that we don't get sick. Just so we have a day to think, just a day to think, some clarity. You know how people say, I can't think straight? Space will allow you to think straight. Ripping and running will have you thinking crooked. Then when we talk about the mental scripts, I actually just call them beliefs. And if you write the word belief out, BELIEF, the third, fourth, and fifth letter of belief spell lie. So often inside our beliefs, which are things we've come to hold as true, are lies, falsehoods that we've never challenged, never questioned. And at the root of the Reboot Lifestyle are scripts or beliefs that we have never questioned, that have us doing life the way we're doing it. And then we look to the right, we look to the left, and other women are doing it in a very similar way. All of our language is reinforcing it. All the imagery we're seeing and all the modeling we're seeing is reinforcing it. So it's like, reboot, which is sick, is the norm, instead of living as a juicy woman and operating from the sacred self-caring consciousness. Right now is still the exception in 2018. So if you look at the behavior of saying yes when I really want to say no, we have to ask, what is the belief beneath that behavior? So that means if I really want to say no and I'm saying yes, for one, I have a belief that it is acceptable to betray myself. Okay. Secondly, I have a belief that people's request and demand on my energy is more important than me making wise decisions about how I want to utilize my energy. So other people have a claim to my energy and my time, and it's more important than the claim I'm deciding for my energy and my time. Now, most of us are running around with a poster like that. I'm relinquishing my, but if you look at the behavior, like, why would we continue to betray self? Well, there's a belief up in there that these other selves that are making requests, their request and requirement on your time has more weight and value than whatever you may be deciding for your time. I say yes to others when I want to say no. And so we have to get underneath the behavior to the belief. That's where the healing work has to be done. And that includes forgiveness work. And we don't know much about doing forgiveness work. I've tested it. We do not. We talk about it. We talk about healing, but we're not doing a lot of healing. And we're certainly not doing comprehensive, complete forgiveness work. So those are some of the mental scripts those are just a couple. We have a belief in the Reboot Lifestyle that our body's a machine. instead of our body as a divine living temple.
Mm.
Now, it's one thing to have the concept, 1 Corinthians, my body is a living temple. And then it's like, well, let me look at how I'm engaging with my body. Let's look at how I'm resting, hydrating, nourishing my body. Let's look at the inner conversation and self-talk about the body that I say to myself, that's not self-loving. That is not body is living temple. So our beliefs will always prevail. They're that powerful. And they actually inform our behavior. So we can continue to try to change behavior, but the undertow, the belief will pull you back to the behavior consistent with the belief. So that's why my work focuses on the belief. Mm-hmm. That's where the pivotal and transformational power exists. And when you replace a belief, the behavior, the fruit of the root of that belief go away because that root is no longer growing. So that's why I call myself a transformational coach, because we're transforming your beliefs. And then the tree grows from the transformed beliefs. I use my hands a lot. I'm realizing that as I'm watching this, I'm like, I use my hands. So I hope that's not too distracting.
They come at the right time. They come at the right time.
Oh
my gosh, Debrena. Like, and for our last question,
okay,
because we could go on and we could just sit at your feet and just like take these notes. But I think you've answered it, but I think it's still worth stating as like a question. So are there secrets to changing how we see the world and ourselves? And if so, what are they?
Well, we are a living lens for how we see and interpret and engage with the world. You're a living lens. So if your lens is a little smudged or cloudy or warped and you have a funky self-concept, your lens is going to be smudged. And as you look out and perceive other people and the world, which is just a bunch of people doing certain stuff, that's what the world is, that's what society is, that's what culture is, then it will warp your perception. So when you engage in true self-love work, and I actually talk about reaching high-level self-love. I stopped talking about just self-love because we all claim to be self-loving, which is not accurate. So now I talk about high-level self-love. What are the characteristics and ways of being and operating when you're at high-level self-love? And most of us don't make that cut. So when you are a high-level self-loving woman, that's a very clear lens that is operating from some very specific truths about joy and love and my power and the gift that woman is to the planet and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then my behavior and how I interact and engage is a reflection of that. How I see the world is a reflection of that. How I show up in my relationships is a reflection of that. Men respond to me in a certain way coming from that versus coming from the other people have claimed my energy. Their opinion is more valid than my own intuition. My validation is through other people and what they think or say about me, and that's what I hang my hat on, etc., etc. So really, I think one of the first places is just naming it. And to name something, you have to recognize it, and to recognize it, you have to acknowledge it. And there's so much we're not acknowledging; it's in our blind spot, and you have to bring stuff around from the blind spot to the front, and the truth shall make you free. And we have a lie in this culture that the truth hurts. I've heard people say that, though, the truth hurts. Well, girl, you know the truth hurts. That is a lie statement. And if you are a Christian and you're saying the truth hurts, you are completely contradicting Scripture, because Scripture says the truth shall make you free, not set you free. We even misquote because we're not reading it ourselves. It says make you free. And so we keep running from truth, hanging on to lies, when really the truth that's back in our blind spot, bring it around, recognize and acknowledge it, because that is now beginning to unravel the chains and the ropes. The truth shall make you free. So women, we first have to be willing to look at what our conversations and our behavior has been with regard to money, right? And you do a lot of work around that. Take a look at your family conversation about money. What did you hear? What was the conversation about in the household, around the dinner table? What kind of language, what kind of word choice? And that stuff infects us. So we got to really heal, clean out, detox, cleanse. So, so really just truth telling, like, where am I right now? What is the truth? Let me get clear. Let me speak it. Let me acknowledge it, is really the beginning of the journey. Women always say, well, after that, what next then, Debrena? I'm like, you haven't even done the truth telling work. So now you're asking me what's step 2, and you're minimizing step 1. That's why you're asking me what step 2 is. You don't even understand the magnitude of step 1. So can you first do step 1?
Can you guys? You know what I'm saying?
Can you? Thorough, and stop trying to jump over and leapfrog over step 1 to get to step 8 and wonder why it ain't working.
Yes.
Right? Woo!
I was going to mention earlier in our interview about this. I think some of us want to look for shortcuts, and it ends up bringing us back to our problems in the first place because we haven't done the work. But Debrena, you guys can continue this work with Debrena. But I want to let her tell you what she's working on and how you can continue this work. And in addition to getting ready for the Happy Finances Challenge / Joyful Challenge.
Yes. Well, oh my goodness. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so tell us where we can find more of you. Where can we see more of you? What are you working on, so they can also continue to deepen this conversation with hearing from you and seeing you?
Thank you. Well, all things Debrena can be found at milliondollarmentor.net, milliondollarmentor.net. And that really is like grand central for me in terms of the online world, because I have all kinds of fabulous free gifts that people can avail themselves of if they want to have a little bit of a taste of, you know, my work and get a sense of my philosophies and my come-froms and there's a whole different vocabulary when you come out of the Reboot world. You know, the premises, the principles, the practices, the vocabulary of the Juicy Woman lifestyle. But I'm also a business coach, as you know, and I also am a relationships coach. So all that information and my courses, all that, milliondollarmentor.net. But what's coming up really soon, in January, starts in January, is my 12-month class called Juicy Woman University. So the 2019 cohort class kicks off the 4th Tuesday of January. And once we close registration enrollments, then you have to be on board the train, because the train pulls off from the station. So that's something that I really recommend women become a part of, particularly if they're looking to lay a new foundation. Like, how do I come out of this Reboot world that I know so well, that you've talked about, Debrena, and start to make the shift and understand how to think differently, understand how to have a different identity, and all the things that are part of the sacred self-care and consciousness. So Juicy Woman University would be a course I'd recommend. And then in February 9th, I'll be in Atlanta doing my Love Academy Live. And February 23rd, I'll be in Washington, D.C. doing my Love Academy Live. So all that can be found at milliondollarmentor.net.
And I've seen Debrena in person, you guys, and I've had a chance to fellowship with her for 3 days. So it is life-changing. So I highly recommend that you get access to her in some way, and then begin to really open yourself up to transformation, because it's not that the resources aren't here. It's not that the not even the gurus, but the coaches aren't here. They are. We just have to make ourselves available. And if that means your finances have to first be in order, take this, replay it over and over again, and then listen to the other women in the series who talk to you specifically about how to create systems and sustainable structures to make joy and happiness a major part of your finances. Okay, so this was so wonderful, Debrena.
Yay!
Yes. And ladies, again, January 7th, that's when we start. It's all free on the Frugal Feminista. 42 days of happy finances, where we get deep into understanding money mindset, budgeting, emergency fund, organization, getting your credit cards and your credit score right, getting a side hustle, and creating strong strong conversations around money. All right. So until next time, until next time, I will see you on the Frugal Feminista on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all across those platforms. Frugal Feminista, and specifically for Facebook, the Frugal Feminista. Until next time, guys, make sure your finances are happy and joyful. All right? Bye.